Webmania.
Hello viewers, welcome to Webmania Bootstrap 3 16th tutorial. In this video tutorial, we will learn Bootstrap button classes. Bootstrap button classes can be used with all of these elements. Here is the table which consists of all the elements on which we can apply button classes. In this table you can see anchor element, button element, input elements including type is equal to button, type is equal to submit, and type is equal to reset. On all these elements we can easily apply button classes to make them styling. So let's go to our editor to see some practical examples of these elements. So this is our editor, and here we write simple code of elements on which we can apply Bootstrap classes. It's an anchor element, and inside an anchor element we write anchor element, the caption, and this is button element. Inside the button element we write the caption of button element, and these are input elements, and input elements we give value of input button and its type submit, and its value is submit button, and its type is reset, and the value is reset button. So let's save this. Now let's go to browser to see how these look like. So it's our browser, and when we reload the page you can see these elements. So here are these elements. This is anchor element, button element, input, submit, and reset. By default, at the moment, by default they are using browser default buttons. So let's go back to our editor. It's our editor, and if you notice, at that moment we didn't apply any class of button class. So now let's apply a button class to elements, which is btn. So here I'm going to apply the class of btn. I copy the class and paste it to the other elements. So here I apply it, and then I'm going to paste it here. Here I'm pasting class. So on these elements we apply only one class, which is btn. Let's save this and let's view this in browser. So it's our browser, and when we reload the page you can see the difference here. Here when we reload the page you can see the styles of buttons are now changed when we only apply btn class. So this is the purpose of btn class. Now in addition to the btn class, Bootstrap also have few other button classes. Here is the table of these button classes. So inside the table you see some classes. These are additional classes, and we use these classes along with btn class. So it's btn default, btn danger, btn info, btn success, btn primary, btn warning, and btn link. Let's go to our browser, let's go to our editor to see some practical examples of these classes. So this is our editor, and here you can see I write the simple HTML code in button element. This is a button element, and inside the button element we use the class of btn, and this is the caption of this element. This is default button, this is danger button, info, success, and now we are going to apply the Bootstrap additional classes to these elements. So here I'm going to add another class, which is btn default. I'm going to copy this, I'm going to copy this, and here I'm going to paste, and now I'm using btn danger class, and below I'm using btn info class. Here you can see I'm going to use btn class. If you notice, this is our caption default button, and now I'm using class btn default. This is our caption. Danger class, I'm using btn danger class. Info, and now I'm using btn info, and here I'm going to use the btn success class. So btn success, and then btn primary class. So btn primary, and then btn warning class. btn warning class, and on this element I'm going to use of btn link. Let's save this and view this in browser. So this is our browser, and when we reload the page, here you can see the practical examples of all these additional classes. So this is the button on which I apply default class. So and this is the button on which I apply btn danger class, info, success, primary, warning. Look at this button. On this button we apply class of btn link. This is going to display the button as a hyperlink. As you can see, now this is converted into hyperlink. But one thing is important. It's converted into hyperlink, but its behavior is still going to button. It also behave like a button. So here is the required HTML for all the button classes used in Bootstrap. Here is the required HTML, and here is the output we get by using this code. Here you can see. Now let's use button classes on anchor element. So this is our editor, and here you can see we write the simple code of anchor element. This is anchor element in href, and then I give him a caption of default, danger, info, success, primary, and warning. So now I'm going to add the class of btn and then btn default. So I'm going to copy this class and paste it to the other anchor elements. So here I'm going to use the class of btn danger, btn info, so btn success, and here I'm going to use this as btn primary. And here it's btn warning. So let's save these classes and view in our browser. So this is our browser, and when we reload the page, here you can see we apply button classes on anchor element, and these button classes convert the hyperlink into button. As you can see, it's a default button, it's a danger, info, success, warning, and primary. One thing important is that these look like buttons, but all these buttons behave as a hyperlink because we use button classes in hyperlink. So let's see the example. So it's our editor, and here if I give him a link of Google main page, so it's our default hyperlink which is converted into default button, and now I'm going to use the link of google.com. Means that when we click on default button, it redirect to google.com. So let's view this in browser. It's our browser, and when we reload the page, it looks same. And when we click on here, when we click on default, it's redirect to Google main page. Here you can see it's redirect to Google main page. So you can see that these hyperlinks converted into buttons but still behave as a link. Here is the required HTML for button classes on anchor elements. Here you can see. Now let's use the button classes on input element. Let's go to our editor to see the practical example of this. So it's our editor, and here we write the simple code of input class, input elements. Here you see its input element, we type button and also give him a value of button. This is input type submit, value is, sorry, I'm going to change the value to submit. And this is input type reset, and the value is going to reset. And now we want to apply button classes to input elements. For this, simply we have to use the class, and here btn and btn info. I'm going to copy this class and paste it to the other input elements. So here I'm going to use the class of submit success, and on reset I'm going to use the class of danger. So let's save this and view it in browser. It's our browser, and when we reload the page, here you can see we have 3 input elements which are converted into buttons by using button classes. This is type button, this is type submit, and this is type reset. So here is the required HTML of button classes used on input elements. Here you can see. So let's discuss the size of buttons. Bootstrap provides us opportunity to make different sizes of buttons. Here is the table of button size classes. Bootstrap provides us 3 button classes, which is btn LG stands for large size buttons, btn small, smaller size button, and btn extra small means that if you want to make extra small size buttons, you have to use the class of btn extra small. So let's go to our browser. So let's go to our editor to see the practical examples of this. So this is our editor, and here we write the button element, and inside button element we use the class of btn success, and in this we use btn LG class. Btn LG class stands for if we want to make a large size button, and also here you see we give him a caption of large, and if we want small button, it's a caption of small, and the class is used for this is btn SM, and the next one is extra small, and the class is used here is btn extra small. Let's save this and view in browser. So it's our browser, and when we reload the page, we got 3 buttons of different sizes. Here you can see it's our large button. For achieving this, we use btn LG class. This is our small button, btn SM class, and this is our extra small button. For achieving that button, we use btn extra small class. So this is the layout we achieve, and here is the required HTML for that. Now let's see how to disable the button. This is our editor, and we want to see how we disable the button. So this is our button element, and inside the button element we use the class of btn and btn warning, and within that we have to use the disabled equal disabled. If we use this, our button will be disabled. Let's save this and let's view this in our browser. It's our browser, and when we reload the page, we got a button with disabled. Here you can see our button is disabled, and notice when we hover the mouse over it, it shows me a sign of stop symbol, which means that the button is not to be clickable. Here when I hover the mouse over it, it shows me a stop symbol. So our button is disabled. To achieving that, we simply have to use this disabled equal to disabled. This will disable the button. Now let's see how to disable the hyperlink. Earlier we see how to disable a button, and now we are going to study how to disable a hyperlink. It's very easy to achieve. Let's go to our editor. This is our editor, and here you can see anchor element, and inside anchor element we use the class of btn and btn warning. To disable hyperlink, we simply have to use disabled. When we use this is going to disable our hyperlink. So let's save this and view in our browser. So this is our browser, and when we reload the page, you notice here we got a disabled hyperlink. And similar, when we hover on it, you can see it shows me a symbol of stop, which means that the button is not to be clickable. So these are all button classes used on different elements. So now in our next video tutorial, we will learn about Bootstrap glyph icons. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned. Have a good day.